Hey everybody, got a couple papers to talk about. Let's first start by talking about large stakes and big mistakes. This article is interesting because two things that seem contradictory. One is it's counterintuitive, and two is it's easy to relate to. So it's um, it's counterintuitive because, especially as business students, we're used to money being the chief means of getting people to act. It's a great motivator, and and the article doesn't really dispute that. It's the link between motivation and performance that's in question, right? People need to. I'm in my office talking into a camera. I would not be doing this if I weren't getting paid to do it. And this is the case for most jobs, right? We do them because we're paid. And yet the way that it motivates and gets people to perform is imperfect, right? And in the article, large stakes and big mistakes, it's the link between motivation and performance where things seem to break down, right? So it's not that people are insufficiently motivated. It's the link between motivation and performance that's in question. And on this point, this is where it's easy for people to relate to. Anyone who's choked under pressure, anyone who's done something kind of below their level of performance because a lot of people were watching. We could, this is me with golf. I wouldn't even say I'm a good golfer, but I'm worse when people are watching, and that's that link between motivation and performance. High levels of motivation do not necessarily translate to better performance. Um, the second article, A Tale of Two Markets, also I think kind of interesting in that it just calls into question money as a means of not motivation but performance, right? And this is again is something where I've got a lot of people talking about experiences that they had where this resonated with people very well. Um, and in my own experience, I had this that I think about when I read this article. I had a friend who was doing some computer security for my folks, and they wrote out a check and gave it to him, and he wasn't happy. I mean, wasn't offended, but he didn't want the check. He didn't take it, and he said, I don't do this for money. I do this because of my friendship with your parents. Anyway, so that's something that people can relate to. The thing I want to call attention to is the fact that we often in business and in management we operate on two systems, and that's where this is a problem. Where you are asking for favors or asking for things of employees on the social market and compensating strictly um, on the monetary market. That's where the problems occur. Um, so think for instance, listen, I can't make the meeting. Can you take notes for me? I know you've shown me how to do this a million times. Um, could you show me again? These are things that these are conversations I have with department secretaries here. Um, and these are kind of common conversations where you ask people for a favor that's really maybe not strictly in their job description, which isn't a problem if you're also compensating in the social market as well. And so when people do things that go beyond their job, I think it's nice to compensate outside of strictly monetary compensation. And businesses often compensate in what you might consider the social market. Um, you know, Airline upgrades, company cars, sell minutes, that kind of stuff. Those are more social market than strictly monetary market kinds of compensations. So those are the two readings that we covered. Brief overview. I mentioned this last week. I'd like you to think about motivation one and two as kind of one theme, and I want to cover those first readings, the large stakes and big mistakes, and a tale of two markets, because um, when we think about getting people to perform in business, we almost always think about money. And what I want to do is point out that that motivation, it's imperfect. And as we transition to meaning in work, that can kind of meaning is another way to get people to perform, other than just strictly money. And you might find that it's even a better way to get people to perform, than strictly money is. So a couple readings: Man's Search for Meaning: The Case of Legos. This is an article that I found deeply impactful, and I think about all the time. Particular study one, but both of them, I think this is this is a great paper, and one that I hope you get a lot out of. It certainly changed the way I think about teaching, and maybe that'll be apparent to you. The second study, The Significance of Task Significance, a great study, a great couple of studies. The problem is there are 3 in the paper. Read studies 1 and 2. That paper is long enough as it is. It's wordy. It's super wordy. And I'm sorry about that. But you got to get through at least study 1 and study 2, and then read everything but study 3, I guess is what I'm saying. There won't be any questions on that on the quiz. So I think that's all I've got to say. One last thing. I always like to add one last thing. In the past, I've had students from my online classes come by and say hi. I think that's great. I've had I think 2 or 3 from the last online class. So that option's open. That option is open if you're interested. If you're not local, that's going to be less plausible. But if you're local, I'd be glad to put. I've got a face for most of you, but so not a face with a name, but a presence with the name. So that's it. Hope everything is going well, and look forward to seeing your papers on meaning.